Chapter 10. "Well, I'll be off then," I said, getting off the couch pretty quickly. It made me feel dizzy as I stood there for a moment, making sure I wouldn't fall over if I took another step. But before I could make it out of the room, Shuichi grabbed my hand and kept me there. I looked back at him and saw that he was looking down at his hand holding my own. I wanted to blush, just because that's how my body wants to react when I'm around him. But I know I couldn't do that to him. "Oh?" I asked with a teasing tone, before trying to pull my hand away. He looked me in his eyes with the same confident look he had many times. I couldn't suppress the blush that wanted to dance its way onto my cheeks, making my face a world of color, but I didn't look at him for a moment, because I needed to get over my embarrassment, because of my blush. I don't want you to leave," he said in an unfairly attractive voice. I wanted to tell him that I didn't want to leave his side either, but it was going to be more fun to just tease the shit out of him. "Why don't you, Shu-chan?" I teased, moving closer to him to put my hand on his shoulder. He blushed for a moment before he looked me intently in the eyes again, making me feel flustered all over again. "Because I want you to stay with me," he said in a slightly annoyed tone. I must have gotten to him with my teasing. I still wanted to mess with him, though. It's just so fun to me. "But what if I don't, Shui?" I teased again, poking his chest this time. He put his hands on my shoulders, making me feel small against him. I kept my smirk on my face, even though I could feel my legs starting to shake from under me. "I know you don't want to leave my side either. If it would be okay with you, would you like to stay in my dorm room for the night?" he asked in a serious tone. I blushed more because of how dominant he was being. Who the hell is this Shuichi? I asked myself, trying to read his expression, only to find it was almost unreadable. "Shuichi! I didn't know you were such a pervert!" I gasped, making him blush as his confident self left again as he became the anxious and cute Shuichi I love. He held his hands on my shoulders still, which made me surprised that he wasn't moving away or covering his face as he usually would. "I didn't mean it like that. I just don't want to have to be alone in my room again," he whispered, honestly, just as the truth ran off his tongue like sweet candy. It's always so bitter to me. That's why I prefer to lie. "I know that, Shu. I'm okay with that," I said, moving over to him to hug his arm. It was nice that he wants to have a sleepover of sorts. I know he doesn't have any intention of doing anything like that, at least without my consent, because my beloved Shu-chan is so sweet. I smiled to myself as he walked back with me to his dorm room. The air was cool outside, and it made me shiver a bit, making Shuichi wrap his arm around my shoulders, making me feel warmer. Maybe I should get cold more often, I thought to myself with a smirk. I leaned into his shoulder as we walked together to his dorm room. His room was on the lower floor, and it was nice not having to walk upstairs before going to a room. His room was well organized, just like him. I smiled and looked around the room curiously. "So, where do you want me to stay?" I asked, before getting cut off by another shudder. Why am I still so cold? I rubbed my arms with a small frown on my face. "You still seem cold," he whispered, before taking off his own jacket and placing it onto my shoulders. I blushed at his action, but was cold and just pulled it over my chest to warm myself up. "You can sleep on the bed, on this side, while I sleep on the other, okay? Is that all right?" he asked with a worried look on his face. I could tell he was doubting his decision to invite me in the first place, which made me sad for a moment, before I realized that he liked me. I can use this to my advantage. "Okay," I teased, before removing my uncomfortable clothes before getting under the covers. Shuichi blushed before handing me one of his own shirts and a pair of sweatpants. I smirked to myself. "Thank you, Shuichi," I said before changing into his clothes. They were warm and smelled like him. It made me feel warm and safe. Maybe I need to take his clothes more often, like his jacket. He gave it to me, and he won't be getting it back. Good night, Kokichi," he blushed, before turning off the lights and making his way into the other side of the bed. His bed was warm and nice, but I was still cold. Shuichi is like a human heater. So warm. I moved closer to him and moved my hands to his upper back to keep myself warm. He flinched at the contact, but soon relaxed. "Are you still cold?" he asked. By the tone of his voice and the heat I could feel from his cheeks, it told me that he was still blushing and nervous, which is so adorable. "Yeah, I don't know why I'm cold," I said honestly, which scared me again. Why does the truth always come out around him, even if it's a simple thing like this? How does he do that? Is it okay if I hug you? He asked, making me laugh a bit. Of course you can, Shuichi. I mean, I am already hugging you, my beloved. So? I teased him again, before I was cut off by his arms wrapping around me and pulling me closer to him. I blushed and hid my face in his chest. Thank you, he said, suddenly making me confused. For what, Shumai? I asked, rubbing his shoulders. I could feel they were tense because of the stress, and feeling him relax made me feel a bit better. For wanting to be here with me, he said. I could tell he was smiling, so I smiled as well. I said with a nod, before feeling my exhaustion take over as I fell asleep in his arms.